Today is March 22nd, 2022. My name is Dube, and I'm about 6 hours away from going before a judge for my third foreclosure. Third, you say? Yes, third. And it's the same party. My last foreclosure ended with a dismissal after my house actually sold in foreclosure. I had found an attorney that was going to listen. I had a fraudulent document, just not a normal fraudulent document. This one was so much in your face that it wasn't even funny. I only have one assignment of mortgage in my case. The document was created by David Stern's office. David Stern was an attorney here in Florida that was disbarred and I believe spent some time in prison for hundreds, if not thousands, of illegal foreclosures based on fraudulent documents that his office created. And my foreclosure, my document, is lumped up in that, but for some reason I'm still fighting for my home. Years later, the document, the assignment of mortgage, was backdated a year before the notary was even commissioned. When that was presented to the court, because it took me, my foreclosure was filed in 2009, and the house sold in 2013, and I found the attorney in the beginning of 2013, or towards the middle of 2013, because I couldn't find anybody to represent me. I couldn't find anybody that would listen to me. And this was years ago. He finally paid attention and he says, okay, I know what to do. So we did it. And we got the sale reversed. We got the foreclosure judgment vacated, and we started all over in the foreclosure. And we presented this one and only fraudulent assignment of mortgage. And the attorney that it took over for David Stern, who didn't do their due diligence, because had they done their due diligence, they probably wouldn't have filed the second foreclosure, decided she wasn't going to come to court anymore, and they made up all kinds of excuses, and my case got dismissed. In the court order, it says that there's a fraudulent document. The opposing counsel was sanctioned for not showing up to court. They had to pay my attorney's fees, so the combination of the two of those was probably around $50,000 for all the illegal activity that went on, and I'm okay. I have my house, owns my note, but that's okay. In 2018, Aquin and PHH Mortgage merged. Let me back up a second. In 2013, the day of the sale, Aquin created a 1098 or 1099, 1098, I guess, IRS docket writing off my mortgage. And they sent it to my ex-husband. Never sent it to me, but I found it finally. So they wrote off, they took a tax credit. They never rescinded it. I didn't find this out till years later. So I'm thinking I'm okay. 4 years later, because that was all done in 2014, 4 years later, October 2018, I get served again by the same party. Now for the full amount of my loan again, with the 7th version of my note. This version has an allonge, never had one before. It just magically appears. We're not going to use the assignment. We're not even going to even bother talking about it. They also don't talk about the fact that the last foreclosure, that judge or the court entered her order, all of her orders, the sanctions, the attorney's fees, the order of dismissal saying that I have a fraudulent document, all in my land records. So it can never be mistaken that there's a fraudulent document and the chain of note possession is broken, if not non-existent. So here I am 6 hours away. Now, if I was a normal American, I wouldn't be afraid because, I have a court system, I have a legal system that's fair and unbiased. And I'm just going to go in there and show them, say, listen, this is not the note that I signed. This is the 7th version of what's going on. The assignment is fraudulent. The last judge figured that out. You would think that I could do all that now and everything would be okay. But I'm not a normal American. I'm a forensic paralegal in illegal foreclosure defense. And I have investigated over 400 cases nationwide. And I have seen just unbelievable. You can't even write that kind of criminal activity in any bestseller book. It is horrible. My entire life, my home, my family's home, is dependent on, did I get a judge who's going to do the right thing, or did I get a judge who was instructed to make sure that I lose today? If I was a normal American, I would think that wouldn't even be possible, but I'm not a normal American. I have 400 cases, 400 homeowners that I have been on the roller coaster with them. The abuses of the legal system, the abuses of their attorneys, the misrepresentations, the lies, the fraud, the thoughts of suicide. I had 2 that did commit suicide. Up all night. The last, 4 years, 3 years, I don't talk about my case, and I'm like, oh, it'll be all right, and it's just a house, and that's what I tell my clients. You got to remember it is a house, but then when it's on your front doorstep, it's not just a house. I bought this house with my husband after 20-some years of hard work. We got it even though we were victims of predatory lending, appraisal fraud, all these horrible front-end crimes that you hear about in the con, that Patrick Lovell, the producer of the con, has worked so hard to tell everybody about. I was a victim of it. Didn't know it. I do now. But I was just so happy to have a home. My youngest one was 5. My oldest one was 18. This was going to be the home that my kids grow up in, and that my grandkids come to, and then I grow old with my husband in. We were so happy. A couple years later, all hell breaks loose. I go through 3 years of just horrible domestic violence that nearly took my life and left me disabled. But I survived. My kids survived. My kids are now 21 and 35. They both live here because things out there are getting so bad, can't afford stuff. I have 3 grandchildren. 2 that come here, and this is Gigi's house. They've been coming here since they were born. They grew up here. They have little man land out back. They have playhouses and sandbox that Daddy built and Pop, I've lost all my neighbors. Most of the ones that when I moved in are almost all gone. This was a safe house for my one neighbor who lost her home while she was surviving brain cancer. She has since passed, but her kids know that this is home too, so they can come because they grew up here. I have an old man across the street that I absolutely adore. I can't imagine moving while he's still even alive. I mean, him and I have a pact he's never allowed to die because I just adore him. He's almost 90 now. I have a lady on the other side, an elderly woman who, I know her kids and her grandkids, and on the other side, they have 8 kids. I've watched them bring home 5 of them. And I know that in 6 hours, I'll be before a judge that I don't know if he was bought off by the criminals or if he's going to do right by me. Just there's no reason I should even be here. I could go into all of the legalities of what's going on in my case. But I want you to know this is not my fault. I could afford my home even after I went through the horrible end of my marriage. I called him back up and I said, thanks for holding on. I need to get right with my mortgage. What do I need to do? I'm sorry, we don't know who you are. I'm like, what? You're on my piece of paper here. How do you not know who I am? You don't have an account with us. The only one that says I have an account with them is the ones that are trying to foreclose, and they're not even the legal entity allowed to foreclose on me. That's awkward. They're a servicer hiding whoever owns the note, but I know who owns the note because this is what I do for a living, and I know of the money laundering and the criminality of Wall Street and the Treasury and the Federal Reserve and all the fat cats up there sitting in their homes with no fucking worry about where their grandkids are gonna come to. I have a wall. The funniest thing was, like, okay, if I have to leave my house, something, but I have this wall that ever since my kid was 5, my youngest, it's a mark wall, where they grow and you put the date on it and everything. I think everybody has one. I have him when he was 5. Now I have his kids with their hash marks. And it's this big thing that we do. We all stand there and do our hash marks, even though I shrink older, How can you take the wall? You can't. You can't take that wall. I've struggled for this house since 2009. I built a business in this house. I built kids in this house. I've raising grandkids in this house. I've had pets come and go in this house. Friends, neighbors, kids, birthday parties, Thanksgiving, Christmases. Most of you that hear this, and you know me, I have been pushing a documentary called The Con. And I don't push it because I'm in it. I push it because I'm a victim of it. I push it because all of you need to understand this is not the country you think it is. Because in the country that I grew up in, I could walk into court confident knowing that I have the truth and I will prevail. I don't have that luxury anymore. I am a victim, feeling like I'm about to go to slaughter in a system that's controlled by Wall Street and the banks. And they've bought off judges and a system to make sure that they continue their crimes that they have been continuing since before 2008. And we can't get mass amounts of people to even watch it, let alone pay attention. I have friends on Facebook. I have family that still to this day have not watched The Con. And I'm telling you, there are millions of me out here. I had 2 clients commit suicide. I've had several clients contemplate it. You don't think I haven't thought about it? It's so fucking hard. I have clients that are much older than I am.